Not only is that a good question, but I think if you ask people, you're going to get many answers. You would think naturally that the subject matter or the color, the design, the brushwork, the texture, the historical context, all these things make a great painting, and that's correct. You want to entertain the eye by continually moving it throughout a painting. You don't want it just to go to the center of interest and then stop and be dead. You want to have the eye keep moving. One of the ways to do that is with nested curves. Your eye follows nested curves. I have two great examples to show you. One of the leading artists in the Mannerist period was Tintoretto. So I Googled up his name and clicked on images, and boom, right away I see this image here. In Photoshop, I superimposed some curves for you. And so you can see how the curves bend and move toward the center of interest. If you add a vertical line like this leg over here, so what's that leg doing? Well, it's a vertical line, and then these people on the left are also stacked up. And then notice these three stairs here in the green, they're horizontal. And so if I draw a line through those, you're going to see how those horizontals and verticals make these curves even stronger as they move forward. Once you see compositionally what Tintoretto is doing, it all makes sense. He's controlling the movement of the eye. He's entertaining the eye as the eye moves around. Another painting that came to mind was by Sorolla. This painting has three curves that helps move your eye along. The three curves are pretty obvious, but there's a spacing, a gap between where the first boy is and where the girl is, and then they're closer. And so that kind of speeds up the movement of these kids running along the beach. Another important thing that's going on is this white line here of the waves. This line of the boy and the wave gives you a certain amount of energy moving to the left. And then notice the wave tilts a little bit downward, and it gives more energy to the girl in the middle. And then the farthest left girl, the wave's tilted even more, so there's more movement to the left. Now, instead of running off the page to the left, notice the girl on the left is looking back to the right, which helps stop that energy. And her arm is pointing to the right, which helps stop that energy. And then her left arm is pointing down, which helps stop that. Now, notice this little guy up in the right corner here. Anytime you put something near an edge or near a corner, it creates more visual attention, so it's going to draw your attention to it. So now, having looked at these sets of curves with these two paintings, let's consider this painting Capriccio. So if you have three curves like this, that would be the start of a painting. And then we know if you add a horizontal and a vertical, that's going to strengthen this movement. You fly up this curve, and then you're going to leave the painting because there's no way to bring you back around. And so that's a dilemma. What do I do next? In 2006, I did this sketch in my notebook, and you can see the three curves going up and the horizontal and the vertical. But I still need a way to get around. Well, as I pointed out in that second painting with the little boy in the upper corner, if I put something in the corner, it's going to create tension and edginess, and that's going to attract your eye. My artistic intention is for your eye to come up these curves and then go over to this upper left corner. But now how do I get you back down around to start all over again? One of my trips was to Scandinavia, and we're in the National Art Museum in Copenhagen, and there's this little Degas painting of dancers on a stage, which is one of his motifs. And on the lower right corner, there was some red, and the lower left corner, there was some red. I realized that if I put some red up here and then some red down here, your eye's going to connect them. For some reason, that's what your eye likes to do. It likes to connect them, especially if there's no other reds around. And so now I'm back down here, and then you can start up the curves again. So now I need a color scheme. That same Scandinavia trip where I saw the Degas show, we went over to Stockholm, Sweden, And then we took a train ride north to Anders Zorn's home and museum. Interesting, the train ride for 4 hours, it was solid trees the whole way up. There's no open space anywhere, just solid trees. Zorn was considered one of the top 3-4 painters in the world at the turn of the century. And he uses a very limited palette, mainly earth colors, greens and browns. So after this trip to northern Sweden and seeing Zorn's work, I said I would like to use that color palette. Now I have in this new painting the composition more or less figured out, and I'm happy with trying this new color palette. But I wanted more spontaneity in this painting, and then the question is, how do I create that? So I set up a 1-inch grid, 54 by 48, and then mathematically I inserted these curves in the grid. And then wherever the curve went through a 1-inch grid, I deposited a breadcrumb. And then I dropped in a random number of ants, maybe 10 or 20. And the ants can turn left, right, or go forward. And they're wandering around looking for breadcrumbs, just like picnic ants wander around looking for breadcrumbs. And so when they find a breadcrumb, they put a pebble. But then the ants could put a pebble next to a pebble. And after you run the simulation a while, I stop it and I collect the pebbles and I convert the pebbles into brush strokes. Over here on the lower left, that started with 3 breadcrumbs that became 3 pebbles, but then the ants could put a pebble next to a pebble. So I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 brush strokes based on those original 3 pebbles. So I like that spontaneity. Every time you run this simulation, you're going to get something different. Now, for the brushwork, there's 2 new things going on here. One is what I call a doppio. Like at Starbucks, a double shot of espresso is called a doppio. And so I dipped the brush deeper in the paint than normal. Then after the brush painted one way, I flipped it over, taking paint off the other side of the brush, and went back up the other way. The other thing that really surprised me was I decided not to wash the brush between similar colors. And so I'm getting all these beautiful cream colors in here. So I just love the way this richness of color is working. Then I would wash the brush before the red, and you can still see the brown coming through the red. She signed her signature, and then that's it. This painting was completed in 2006. It's 54 inches by 48 inches. It only has 269 brush strokes. So it would only take maybe a third of a day to paint the whole thing. The story behind it, the art history of entertaining the eye, the curves, and the artistic concepts, and then the technical concepts. To me, all the stories behind the painting are what's fascinating. Visitors to the art studio here, they don't know the stories behind it. They just see this painting, and it's one of their favorite paintings.